Montalvo Broadcasting Network. Support MBN, Montalvo Broadcasting Network, and shop with us over at Montalvo Store. Go to ebay.com and search in the advanced search. Type in Montalvo Store. Now support Montalvo Broadcasting Network. We have a wide array of books on conspiracy, apparel, and much more. Support your favorite radio station, Montalvo Broadcasting Network, by visiting Montalvo Store on ebay.com.
Tribal, primitive, rustic, Burning Man, punk rock, conceptual subculture, for the edgiest, most cutting-edge designs of jewelry today. Go to etsy.com/shop/conceptual subculture, or one word, either by going to Google or search Etsy, ETSY.com, and type in one word, conceptual subculture. You will find the hottest designs using natural stones with wire wrap rings, rough, raw, genuine, semi-precious gemstone jewelry, solid sterling silver, copper, leather, organite, bracelets, pendants, chokers, men's copper cups with sterling accents, eco-friendly, repurposed, original, one-of-a-kind design earrings. Support MBN by going to Conceptual Subculture on Etsy. Go to Antique Obsessions for the hottest in jewelry, antiques, repurposed, solid sterling silver, one-of-a-kind, handmade by Bruce and Jaja. Go to our Facebook, which is Antique Obsessions, or you can go to Etsy.com and go to Antique Obsessions, one word, or type it into your Google and find us there. Thanks.
If you're looking for the coolest apparel, jewelry, bracelets, earrings, the stylish and hippest clothing around, go to Poshmark.com. Poshmark.com at Anti-Culture. At Anti-Culture. The coolest, hippest apparel on the internet. Poshmark.com at Anti-Culture. Bruce Montalvo.
Continues to spread conspiracy theories.
Penchant for promoting bogus conspiracies as though they were fact.
About his conspiracy theory.
This is CNN, a network of China Broadcasting System.
Bruce Montalvo is the only radio talk show host that's not controlled. You're listening to the Bruce Montalvo Show.
Hello and welcome. It's the 18-year anniversary of 9/11. That's almost how many intelligence agencies stood down on that day. I guess you could say that 9/11 was like the trigger for me to start my show. I've been on air for over 10 years now trying to uncover the truth on what happened on 9/11 and many other anomalies that I cover, and 9/11 was definitely the catalyst for me, or one of many. To start questioning, the truth, to try to find the truth. And joining me today is an architect for truth. Joining me on today's show, he is the founder of AE 9/11 Truth, Richard Gage of AIA will be joining me. Richard is a 30-year San Francisco Bay Area architect and a member of American Institute of Architects. He is the founding member of Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. Richard Gage joins me. He's on the line. Hello, Richard. It's great to finally have you on.
Yes, I'm glad to be on, Bruce. Thanks for having the courage to stand up and be counted relative to the truth about 9/11 and to bring today's important information out there.
That's right. You need a lot of courage because some people, for standing up for 9/11, they've lost their careers. Some of them have even been put into mental institutions. I mean, it's crazy, Richard.
Yeah, what's going on is unconscionable and it revealing of a systematic, widespread crime series by what can only be the largest mafia the world has ever known. And we're going to prove that today with the scientific forensic evidence.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you about. You know, what are some of the new developments with the 9/11 case?
Well, first, let's tell everybody about the third tower because some of your listeners may not know, and I want everybody to know. I mean, because the study that came out of the University of Alaska has completely pulled the rug out from underneath the NIST report. And that report was given to us 7 years after 9/11 about Building 7, when everybody forgot about it, if they ever knew, because most people don't even know a third tower came down on 9/11. Most architects and engineers don't even know. I mean, this is the third worst structural failure in modern history, and yet it should be the most studied building failure ever, and yet most people don't know. So here's a 47-story skyscraper that drops like a rock straight down, uniformly, symmetrically, into its own footprint on the afternoon of 9/11. After witnesses heard explosions, this building drops as fast as a bowling ball falling out of the sky, just like the old hotels in Las Vegas. And so they have the gall to come out with a 1,000-page report 7 years later and try to tell us that it came down by normal office fires.
Oh, yeah, no,
and of course, office fires have never brought down a skyscraper ever.
Right, 3 buildings that fell down, defying the laws of physics, all on the same day, pretty much around the same time. It's incredible. It's an incredible story they want us to believe, the official story, right?
Yeah, it is incredible. It's not credible at all.
That's right.
And so that's actually why Professor Leroy Halsey, one of the top forensic structural engineers in the country, he was just really curious, finally he agreed to do this because he knows that spires don't bring down skyscrapers, and he knows that there's lots of other similarly built skyscrapers that could come down by fire if it's true that fire brought it down. So he was motivated to take this project on, and it's been 4 years and $300,000, and he has now concluded that most all of the assumptions that NIST used in their report are, not most all, but several key assumptions are completely invalid.
Right.
I mean, we're talking structural components completely omitted from the computer model that NIST provided, the input data that they won't release to the architects and engineers because we submitted a FOIA request. Right. And they say, well, it might jeopardize public safety if we were to release this information. Wait a minute. It would jeopardize public safety to withhold this information from the architects and engineers that are tasked with ensuring that our buildings are safe.
Right.
Nothing makes sense when it comes to NIST. So Professor Halsey uses those invalid assumptions that NIST provides, even though they were invalid, and tries to say, well, can this building come down anyway? And lo and behold, he couldn't get the building to fail. Not even a local failure could he get, much less a progressive failure where one failure begins another and then another, as NIST claims. So he then proceeds to try taking out 8 columns and see if that will fail the building. Well, in the northeast corner of the building, you take out 8 columns, it's interior columns, it's going to overload the exterior columns, and they do begin to fail, and the building begins to tip over. It doesn't fall straight down like it does in the video.
Right.
Okay, well, they're learning something here. Now we go to year 3.5. And he begins modeling, well, what could have brought this building down the way the video shows that it got brought down? But by God, he found out that you have to take out 650 columns virtually all at once, within a second of each other. And this building falls exactly like the videos show that Building 7 fell.
Right into its own footprint.
Now, how does that happen, Bruce?
Well, I'm only guessing it's got to be a controlled demolition for it to fall right into its footprint and just be just dustified, just completely at free fall speed.
Yep. You have to take out all 650 columns. You can only do that with explosives.
That's right.
I mean, that's the only way. It doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen by miracle.
If you remember, George W. Bush, he let it slip on TV. He said, "Oh, the explosives." Everybody was like, "The what?"
Yeah. I remember that. And the Defense Secretary Rumsfeld said something similar, talking about a missile hitting the Pentagon, which is
That's
very
right.
interesting. Anyway, Halsey has proven that a progressive collapse couldn't have happened, and that's stated in his 128-page report, which people can download from our website and find that his conclusion is that we have a global collapse initiated by a simultaneous failure of 650 columns.
Wow.
So that's damning an indictment of the NIST report. And we're trying to get that out to every university in the country so Professor Halsey can bring that message, it's not a message for him, it's a scholarly report. He's in it for its scholarly value, which is unindictable. We've already had many exterior reviews. They can't find anything wrong with this report. They tried.
Well,
we want our supporters out there who we can't reach otherwise to support the $50,000 balance on this $300,000 report that we're trying to pay off so we can send then Professor Halsey to various universities. And we're looking for invitations from universities. So we want people to invite Professor Halsey to their university and share this report with every architect and engineer that you can find and everybody else that you know.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds about right. But the 3,000 architects, I mean, are they trying to take this message to Washington, D.C.? And if so, how is it being met? I mean, with censorship, I'm sure.
Well, there's lots of censorship, but here we are in Washington, D.C. right now. Tomorrow, we're taking with us 2 of the 5 commissioners from the New York town that voted unanimously in favor of a resolution demanding a new 9/11 investigation. This is historic. We never had an elected body, particularly fire commissioners, demand a new 9/11 investigation. They're on fire. They want to talk to all the other fire commissioners and firefighters in the state and get them all woken up to what really happened on 9/11 and demanding a new investigation. So there'll be a press conference tomorrow morning, September 11th at 10 o'clock at the National Press Club, where they will announce their campaign, Justice for the 9/11 Heroes. And we will also be announcing the results of this Alaska study that I mentioned in this press conference. And then we'll be going to Congress and presenting them with the stories from the commissioners, the petition from 3,000 architects and engineers, the Bobby McIlvaine Act, which is already written for them. All they have to do is introduce it as legislation for a new 9/11 investigation.
Right.
So we've got lots of work cut out. Tomorrow's going to be a big day.
That's incredible, because we're still living in the shadows of 9/11. We're still at war because of what happened 9/11. I mean, I was in 10th grade in high school, and it felt like Armageddon. It felt like the world was ending that day. I said, what the hell's going on? You go home, and the towers are completely gone. It was crazy, and we're still at war because of 9/11. It just doesn't make sense how. I mean, two buildings, twin towers. They were built like a screen door, right? They were built like to repel basically a airplane crashing into the towers. I mean, it happened in the Empire State Building, so they built the tower specifically to be airplane proof, and then the official story says airplanes brought them down. It just doesn't click.
Nope, doesn't wash either. And then that's why we've got to do what we've got to do. We've got to keep activating. And people, your listeners say, what can I do right now about this? What you can do is simply email the study to all of these people. Email the AE911truth.org link to every architect and engineer out there, colleagues, friends. You don't even have to get out of your chair.
Exactly. So, World Trade Center 7, a lot of people, even millennials today, they don't even know what 9/11 is. They're like, what was that? I don't know. New York? I don't know. I mean, they have no clue of the attacks of 9/11, the events, the tragic events of 9/11. It's sad.
No, they don't. We've got to wake them up. We've got to move mountains, and we can do that. I mean, people are waking up. Half the people in America are aware that something's fishy about 9/11. Right. Half of those people can actually cite the points of evidence. So, why they're all not doing what I'm doing and what you're doing, I don't know. But hopefully people, and more people are doing something. The alternative media is mushrooming in size. It's overtaken the mainstream media, thank God, in terms of listeners, and they're just failing. So something's happening, Bruce. There's a movement that is fueled by something, and I can only call that the spirit. God. We're riding a wave, and it's very exciting. People are waking up. I mean, think of all the public. Probably 90% of the public, 95, believe that they've been told a lie by the media about the suicide of Epstein. Nobody believes that. Right?
No, not even my postman. My postman the other day is like, I don't believe that.
Yeah. So, there's an awakening here. Now, thank God the media is helping us by perpetuating such an obvious lie, but that discredits them. So now the media is discredited by themselves, which is a wake-up call to the American people also.
Right. No, this mass consciousness awakening of it is happening, but at the same time, it's almost like we're dealing with a dormant, zombie-like society. Mainly some younger people. You would imagine with all the technology and the advances, they would be, pretty much in the know. And a lot of them are. I'm not discounting them, but just a lot of other like college students that they don't even know what 9/11 is. Like seriously, it's kind of scary.
Yeah, and that's what I like to talk about. 3,000 architects and engineers demanding a new investigation. If 3,000 architects and engineers wrote you a statement that said your house was in danger of collapse, would you listen to them?
Oh yeah.
It's a lot of credibility, right?
You come in with the evidence. You got all the evidence there. You go through it. The nanothermite. You guys go through the pulverization of the building. I mean, it's all there. You sent it to me. I have all the bullet points, the evidence. I mean, you could take this to court, and they would have. How could they dispute it?
Yeah, it's pretty undisputable, unbelievable.
Sure is. So, Richard, there's a lot of symbolism with 9/11. I mean, people have seen it in cartoons. So that, some people that were awake, beforehand, they were like, oh my goodness, I saw the Twin Towers in a cartoon collapsing. I mean, even in structures like, I don't know if you're aware of the St. John the Divine building that was built back in 1892, they show the Twin Towers collapsing in the architecture and the columns of the building. That's pretty creepy. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it is. It's very creepy. I don't know. I'm an architect. I actually try to focus on the facts, what I can prove.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of that is like the foreshadowing. It's just very, very creepy around it. But this 18-year anniversary, people are mourning. They're still mourning, and there's still people dying. The first responders. I mean, they're not being helped, and they were told a complete lie at the time that the air was safe to breathe. They went out there, and people have died. A lot of people have died, and continue to die because of the events, because of those towers falling on that day.
Yeah, they do. More people have died since 9/11 as a result of the dust, which was caused by what?
That's right.
By the controlled demolition of these towers. That's what caused the dust. Let's be clear. The Muslims did not cause the dust. Now, let me explain that. That we don't really absolutely know who set these charges in these buildings.
That's right. We don't know who did it. Yeah, to this day, I mean, it's up in the air. It's kind of like the Kennedy thing. It's like, oh, who did it? Who done it?
Well, I mean, there's people who have had motive, had access, and had inside access to the towers, but it wasn't the Muslims. Most likely, nobody believes that. Who's aware of the forensic evidence of the destruction of these towers? So, who was it? Well, I would refer people to a book by Kevin Ryan called Another 19. There's also an author and journalist, Christopher Boleyn, who has done some research into this area called Solving 9/11. Okay. And it's just not that difficult to solve. Read David Ray Griffin's books, 9/11 New Pearl Harbor.
That's right.
Certainly people in power at the time are most likely culpable, and the evidence points toward them.
Oh, yeah, the project of a new American century, they were formulating some type of attack, or some type of Pearl Harbor attack. And not to mention the towers. You mentioned the towers, they were filled, the dust, and it was just a pyroclastic flow of asbestos, because that's what those towers were packed with, right? And they're old. They're very old. They were filled with it.
Oh, yeah. And the city of New York was requiring the Port Authority to comply with federal regulations, which meant that they had to abate that asbestos and get it out of there. And that was a $5 billion job.
Wow.
Which was impending on the Port Authority. So they sold the building to Larry Silverstein in a very unusual deal where he wasn't even the low bidder, but somehow got the bid nevertheless. And he put up only $15 million of his own money, which somehow got leveraged to 125, which somehow got leveraged to $3.2 billion. And the deal was that if a terrorist attack hit, then the insurance payout would all go to him.
Right.
And he would own the land, and he got $5.68 billion out of that deal. Now, this deal just went through about 6 to 8 weeks prior to 9/11. So it's all fishy from beginning to end. And the 9 months prior to 9/11, there was an elevator modernization, the largest one in the world, which Chase Elevator had the contract for.
Right.
And they had 85 employees in the building at the time the planes hit the buildings, and they fled. They didn't stick around to help the firefighters rescue the victims at all. So this is needs to be followed up on, because they came out of nowhere to get this contract. Otis Elevator put in these elevators originally and had been maintaining them up to the time Ace Elevator got the contract to modernize them.
Right.
Very suspicious deal, and needs to be investigated.
So it's just scary that they're still finding bodies on the top of skyscrapers in Manhattan somewhere, or fragments of bone, or that they didn't know was there from that day of the 9/11, 18 years ago, on the rooftop.
Yeah, 700 bone fragments were found on top of the Deutsche Bank building.
Wow.
They're smaller than half an inch. So wait a minute. You got a collapsing building, 110 stories, each an acre in size, 4-inch thick and 8-inch thick concrete slabs, should be smashing people between those slabs. Not pulverizing them to 1,100 of them are completely vaporized, by the way.
Right.
6,000 of them, 6,000 pieces of bodies are small enough to fit into a test tube. Only 300 whole bodies were found, and yet we're still missing more than 1,000 people altogether. Something else went on here other than a gravitational collapse. Trap and mangle bodies between floors.
No, I'm telling you, it just does not add up. It all comes crushing down, the dust, and it doesn't even rupture the bathtub, but people dustify, pulverize. The buildings are completely pulverized. They use some heavy stuff to bring these things down.
Oh yeah. What we have as evidence in the inside the dust samples, the U.S. Geological Survey themselves find billions of previously molten iron microspheres, the diameter of a human hair.
Wow.
How did they get molten? That takes 2,800 degrees. How did they get to be iron? 10 tons of iron throughout the whole World Trade Center dust. 6% of the volume of these dust samples, many of them, and is molten iron. We haven't used iron in 100 years in our skyscrapers.
Right.
Well, molten iron is the byproduct of thermite. Thermite is an incendiary used by the military to cut through steel like a hot knife through butter. And so here, under explosive conditions, thousands of thermite cutter charges would be aerosolized. And aerosolized liquid forms itself into droplets, like out of a spray bottle. And these molten iron droplets would cool and fall with all of the dust. That's the only rational explanation as to how they could possibly ever have gotten there. And yet the EPA, who says this is a signature component of the dust, says that means it's not even World Trade Center dust unless it has these unidentified molten iron spheres. Well, where do they come from?
Wow.
Well, another team of scientists led by Niels Harrit in Copenhagen find in our dust samples these curious red-gray chips. By extrapolation, amounts to about 10 tons of this material, again, throughout all the World Trade Center dust. When it comes up to a magnet, they get curious, zoom in, and find the ingredients to X-ray energy dispersive spectroscopy, the ingredients of thermite, iron oxide and aluminum powder. What's thermite doing in this dust? They get real curious, zoom in 50,000 times, find these nano-sized particles of iron oxide and aluminum powder, iron oxide crystals, rhomboidal-shaped crystals, and aluminum platelets that are set in an organic bed of oxygen, silica, carbon. This does the organic materials what makes TNT so powerful. It expands so rapidly. And so here you have an incendiary, thermite, being engineered to become more explosive. especially at a small size. The surface volume expands exponentially, allowing an incredibly rapid ignition or activation of the chemical reaction. So this has to be, this is very internally consistent. By the way, Bruce, they put these chips in a heater, a differential scanning calorimeter, and at 750 degrees or so, they ignite, producing what? Molten iron microspheres.
There you go.
So we know where those molten iron microspheres came from. They came from all those chips. They have the same chemical signature. So it's a set of internally consistent, self-corroborating, repeatable data, which can be used in a court of law to bring these perpetrators to justice.
And now the question is, who put the thermite there and why? I mean, but the Lockhardt's exchange theory, it all adds up. It's all there. It's all leading back to the scene of the crime. No, it's intense stuff. I mean, why it isn't mainstream is pretty obvious because, someone had their hand in the cookie jar that day.
Yep, they absolutely did. And we've got to get to the bottom of it. And I know that your listeners will stand up and do something. We'll send the link to ae911truth.org to everybody out there.
That's right.
Don't sit on this information.
Oh, no. 18 years now. I mean, I've been doing the show for 10 years covering 9/11, and, I tip my hat off to you and all these brave architects out there that haven't forgotten, the souls that died that day, the Americans that died that day. And, I mean, we continue to die, and people continue to die because of those events. I mean, I just want to ask you this, Richard. You think it was some sort of false flag at the end of the day? I mean, many radio show hosts called it an inside job. What are your opinions on that?
Well, a false flag operation is one in which a government or military attacks its own self and then blames it on somebody else.
That's right.
And it's pretty clear that that's what's going on here.
I see.
It's pretty clear that Muslims in a cave in Afghanistan didn't have access to high-tech nanothermite made only in the most advanced, sophisticated laboratories. They didn't have access to the most highly secure buildings in the country, the Pentagon, the Twin Towers, and Building 7, where the CIA had its largest headquarters outside of Langley, Virginia. No, we're talking about some sort of an inside operation. And yes, this would be a false flag because what happened afterwards. We invaded Afghanistan and Iraq under false pretenses in which 2 million people have been killed, by the way, and we're engaged in a $6.5 trillion global war on terror that is all goes back to the destruction of the towers, for which we and thousands of others in this country and around the world have irrefutable scientific evidence for the explosive destruction of them intentionally. Yeah, we've got the evidence that's needed to blow this wide open, but we have corrupted officials, corrupted media, corrupted academic institutions who won't look at the peer-reviewed papers that we have sent them. It's a real problem.
Oh, yeah.
It's up to you and me.
No, I see something dark looming in the future. I mean, I'm looking in the news, and a lot of the air marshals up there committing suicide for some reason, or they're having some type of hard time to have air marshals up there in the air. So, with all that hubbubaloo, who knows what could happen? They could set up something bigger than 9/11. Do you think something bigger than 9/11, like a 9/11 Part 2, could be in the future?
Yeah, I hope not. I mean, if we act fast enough clever, we can avoid the next 9/11, which Dick Cheney called the smoking gun would be a mushroom cloud.
Oh, yeah.
I consider that a threat.
You got it. Well, Richard, we come to the end of the show. I'll be sure to lead our listeners to the links to AE 9/11 Architects of Truth. Thank you so much, Richard of AIA, Architects, Engineers, America. Thank you for being on my broadcast today. I appreciate it, and my listeners appreciate it as well.
You're so welcome. Thank you, Bruce. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. That was Richard Gage, Architects, Engineers for 9/11 Truth, joining me on this very special broadcast. 18 years since 9/11. I remember, like yesterday, I was smoking a doobie behind the classroom, and next thing you know, 9/11 happened. Anyway, a lot of people have died, and we haven't forgotten them. We could never forget their spirits, their souls live on inside our hearts, because, like I said, any minute now, they could do another 9/11 Part 2. We don't want that, and it's up to you. So, this is Bruce Montalvo signing out.
Montalvo Broadcasting Network.